Okay, we're gonna get started now. I'm Kendall, one of the organizers of the meetup, along with Michael and Diane. And Diana Soliton is our moderator tonight. She's a startup founder and advisor. Diana helps startups bring their ideas to market by advising on UX, UI, and storytelling, product market fit, sales, and business development. She is also a local community builder leading several groups, including the Palo Alto iOS Developers Group. So I'll turn it over to. Sure. So the Palo Alto iOS group, we have two types of events. We have like about approximately monthly general meetup like this today, and we also have a weekly study group which meets Tuesday evenings, usually at Coupa Cafe in Palo Alto or Fuse. Um, and so you're welcome to join the study group as well. And we also have a Slack group if you're interested in joining. So I'll turn it over to Diana.
Thanks, Kendall. First, before we start our talk, I just want to thank our venue host, Couchbase. Thank you. It's a beautiful place. So Hod is a developer advocate for Couchbase, focused on mobile, and he just has a couple of words for you guys.
Yeah, so first thing actually to get out of the way is just some info for everyone. If you parked downstairs, if anyone parked, you should only park in the green or white stalls. So if anyone's in a red stall, you should go move your car because that's actually the apartment buildings across the way that use that. If there's an emergency, we have the emergency exit here, and the idea is to calmly make your way across to the target parking lot and wait for the all clear signal from the building. Just don't run anyone over, that's the main thing. Let's see. Other things, restrooms. So you see the signs. The restrooms are actually outside and kind of around out in the lobby. Wi-Fi, everyone can see the passwords glued up in a few different places. The Couchbase guest. And if you're leaving from the garage, the doors will be down and they don't open unless you get really close to them. So don't worry if they're not moving. It just means you have to get a little bit closer. It's like you need to be about a foot or two away. So then I'm going to do just a very quick spiel about what Couchbase is. So like Diana said, I'm the developer advocate for Couchbase that focuses on mobile. Couchbase Mobile, the stack as we refer to it, actually comprises three pieces. It's Couchbase Lite, which is embedded database, on-device embedded database. This is cross-platform. It works on iOS, yay. It works on Android, actually also works on other platforms like desktop platforms and such. It's a full-featured database, NoSQL database, if people know what that is. We also have, on the other end of things, we have Couchbase Server, which is our enterprise class NoSQL server. And then a really nice piece that's extremely hard to do on your own is the glue piece that pulls them together, which is Sync Gateway. So you can think of that as kind of your cloud endpoint that allows the synchronization and other things that tie the whole system together. So it's a really nice solution for mobile, especially if you're expecting to end up dealing with lots of users, and not having to roll your own sync system is because that's a really hard problem to solve. It's open source. You can go check it out on our GitHub repos, and of course we have the usual documentation and all that stuff. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Glad everyone's here, and here we go.
Thanks, Hod. So our topic for tonight is working with offshore design and development teams. So we want to talk about kind of the pros and cons, the challenges, tips for effectiveness. And later we're going to open up for audience questions as well. So I wanted to kind of give everybody a diverse set of perspectives. So we have a pretty diverse panel here. starting over there, that's Andre. Say hi. Andre is a senior project manager for a company called SCR. It's one of the top development firms in Europe. And then Camille, right next to him, also works at SCR with him. He's the director of business development. And then we have Mike Lanza. Mike Lanza is a serial entrepreneur. He's led numerous development projects, design and development projects, with teams in Asia, Europe, and also locally here. He's also a self-taught designer and developer himself, right? And then this is Lucas. Lucas is the founder of a company called Platform. Platform is one of the top design agencies in Europe. And they've worked on hundreds of mobile and web projects for companies all over the globe. And this is Philip, who works with Lucas at Platform. He's the COO and handles a lot of the operations and project management. Okay. So a lot of these questions are based on kind of a lot of the questions that I've kind of crowdsourced from the community. So first question I want to start with is, many people don't know that a lot of noteworthy startups use offshore teams to launch their first product. I just read a recent article that named some of the startups that used offshore teams. Slack, Skype, GitHub, Basecamp, SeatGeek, just to name a few. Why do you think more and more companies are turning to offshore and outside teams?
Does that work? Okay. I could start as a client of a lot of offshore teams. It's incredible to me what engineers are getting paid these days around here. If you're one of those folks, great, congratulations. I don't think it's just not worth it to me to be spending the kind of money. When you look at the total compensation, not just the money, the cash, but the bonuses, the stock, what we as entrepreneurs have to compete with. I've seen figures somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 for a staff engineer at Twitter, at Facebook, at Google, at Apple. That's unbelievable. I think we can you can get often a better product, a better performance from somebody offshore. The other part of that is that people who are hanging out their shingle and saying they're available around here aren't very good in general. I mean, there's some people, high quality people getting good jobs, but there's so much demand for good engineers here that a lot of times what you end up with, if you're looking, is someone who, wasn't able to get that job at Twitter, wasn't able to get that job at Google, at Facebook, or even a startup, and they're just not very high quality. And on the other hand, in other countries, and most of my experience lately has been with Eastern Europe. I know that Platform is in Slovakia. They have really smart people who are getting paid an awful lot less, multiples less. I know they'd like to make more money, obviously, as time goes on, but there's such a disparity now. And the quality disparity of people who are available from other countries, they're so much better over there. The other thing is that we have communications technologies that we can use to collaborate that we didn't have years ago, and they speak pretty good English. I mean, you listen to these guys talk. It's not perfect American English, but the communication is great. There's really very little that you lose in translation. So for those reasons, I think it's a really good idea to start with a foreign team. However, there's a bunch of caveats that we'll get into. There's a lot more work you have to do on your side because you're dealing with someone who's many time zones away, who maybe has some cultural differences from you. There's more work that you have to do up front.
Does anyone want to add anything? I mean, I know you guys have had just kind of a big
Yeah.
customers, right? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, for sure. I can just add some new information to what Mike has said. As Mike said, we have been a part of Eastern Europe somewhere in the history, and after the communism has ended, lots of Western companies came into our republic and our region. So if we want to work for them, and we started work for them, like for companies called Orange, like Heineken, and lots of other IBM and Dell companies, we had to meet the Western standards. So we are pretty used to work for like Western companies, and the working culture and the economical social barriers. Like I think that the globalization had tear them almost down. So there are no big differences between European outsourcing company and the US clients and US companies. So there is nothing I think that you can hesitate very much of. Maybe Mike would think something else. But usually the cooperation works well. We have a lot of clients in US and we are working here for several years, so we are pretty like aware of what you are looking for and what is the demand. You send us an inquiries and what are we should be prepared of, like when working with you guys. So this is something which I just want to say.
Thanks.
Yeah, I will be just very interested and do a little research in our audience. So you guys have any experience with the offshore teams? Have you ever outsourced anything? All right. And how did it work? Was that good? Fantastic. All right, cool. Horrible. All right, good one. Challenging. Okay. Any other adjective? All right. Okay. So that's it.
So, there's some advantages when you're trying to evaluate a, kind of local partner service provider. You can meet with them in person. Maybe someone is, a referral from a close friend or colleague. There's local branding and advertising that you're inundated with. How does someone evaluate a company that's thousands of miles away?
Maybe I would start. First thing is that in general you need to find someone with strong portfolio, because if someone has just like 2 projects in the portfolio, you can't find anything. Second thing is the right skill set. Basically, if you are looking for mobile app design, you need to find someone with many mobile apps in the portfolio. But the most important thing is some kind of social proof. So you always should check testimonials from real customers, and not just the testimonials on their website, but Google page, like Google Plus page, Google reviews, Facebook reviews. That can help a lot. If someone is not hiding anything, he will be happy to share, clients with you. Like our clients do the same. I think like Mike is open to it, right? So I would really rely on testimonials, skill set, and strong portfolio. And you always can jump on call, Diana. So you don't have to meet in person. You see almost the same when you are on video conference call. And if someone is hiding, he doesn't want to speak to you, something is probably wrong with him. So let's jump on call as soon as possible.
All right, I'll just add to that if you are starting to work with someone on your project, you're probably already invested a lot of time into it. So it's the key decision you're gonna probably make, like who you're gonna trust and who you're gonna work with. So like Lucas said, you're gonna check, the portfolio and testimonials, but I would suggest you that you should double check with the real clients whether the work was good or not. If you do that, just with 2-3 clients, you will get pretty much a good vision or good knowledge of how good that person is. So that's a really important stuff, and you can also always check their social media sites and stuff like that. That's really like, do your homework, do the Google search, find out everything, because you're gonna spend with those people for next couple of months, and you should make sure that that freelancer or a company won't go bankrupt, or sometimes happens that the freelancer stop responding to your emails. I don't know if ever happened that to you. I mean, you had a bad experience, right? So. Yeah, because I hear that so many times that just people they just don't turn up, they don't respond to you, they come after 1 week and they just say hello, which is crazy, and that shouldn't happen with someone who has a good reputation, and you can check that reputation online. So, do your homework. That's my message.
I would just say one other thing. There's, and this is true, hiring people locally too. There are starters and there are finishers. And a lot of times you look at portfolios online and you get a sense, oh boy, these people have great ideas. They have done some great design. They've done some great work. But you really, I'm trying to ship a product, so I need to find people, find organizations or freelancers who know how to institute processes, QA processes, release processes, design, test, build, that whole thing, so that we can actually get a product out into market. And that, it's a little bit tricky but that's where when you talk to someone, you want to find out what processes do they use, what methodology do they use, how do they work week in and week out, how do we get from here to there. Yeah, you can see if you see some good apps on the App Store, that's some evidence of that. But I also want to know, do you have, and this is why you work with a firm rather than just working with one contractor, with one freelancer. Do you have processes in place that you utilize, that the whole company believes in, understands, that can get us all the way to a shipping product?
Thanks, Mike. So what about the distance? Isn't that a problem? I mean, isn't it harder to kind of fix problems if you can't sit right next to the person? And what about the time difference?
I can start, and Philip maybe would like to continue. What I think about, as I said before, is that, and maybe I will repeat myself, but the globalization has, as I said before, tear down all the barriers, economic, social, and like other ones. So when we are talking about software development, we are talking about something which is totally like intangible. So it can be transferred anytime, anywhere in the world, and in any other possible ways. So I think that there's no problem like when we are talking about software development, that you won't get something delivered if you work at a proper company who, for example, share the whole code, or GitHub or GitLab. So you can easily get any kind of access to the work which has been done. And if you're not very satisfied with it, you can easily change the cooperation company.
One thing I appreciate about Platform is that they work on a late schedule for them. So they're, compared to Pacific time, they're 9 hours ahead. And so if they were working normal 9 to 5 hours, basically we would have no overlap. They would be finishing work when I'm just waking up in the morning. But instead, they shift their time. They do that because their clients are somewhere west of them. A lot of them are in the United States. And so I'm getting posts on Basecamp or posts in email. I'm getting those at noon, at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm working. I think that's very valuable. And we can have phone calls. We do Google Hangouts calls at a time that's reasonable for me. I really appreciate that. The other thing, though, is even if there weren't time zones, just communicating over the phone or asynchronously doesn't. Something is lost when you do that. There's no doubt about it. So there's some onus on us, the folks who are hiring these people and these firms. We've got to be a little bit more proactive. We've got to be really on top of things. You can't be kind of mentally absent from any meeting. Every time you've got to be there. You've got to be on top of it. You've got to catch things right when you're talking about them. You've got to be really kind of more on top of things, I think, than you would be otherwise. You know, you have to be really actively managing the project, not just sort of waiting for them to come to you with stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's actually really important because of the fact that you're not dealing with them right next to you. Every communication is really important. You've got to step up and you've got to sort of look ahead where the thing is going and stop things if they're not going in the right direction.
All right, I'll just add that most of our clients are US-based companies, whether startups or agencies here. So it's natural for us that we have changed the way how we work, the whole process to actually tackle these issues we've got with working from another continent. And what we did, and what I would strongly recommend you to require from the vendors that you work with is, for example, daily updates, right? So we tell the client every day what we've done today, what we're gonna do tomorrow, so they have a perfect control and knowledge of what's happening. Moreover, it's usually Friday, but it's basically a weekly demo. We are showing the results of our work. If we don't do that, just straight away. Sometimes we do, but then there's a Friday demo where we jump on the call with the client, show them the design, show them the code, functional prototype, whatever, you name it. Okay, so you as a client has a great control. You know what's happening. You can pivot the product or the project if they are agile, and they can actually absorb the change. So that's one part, or two parts of our project management system. And then a part of the process is that we always share the source files with them as well. So for example, Mike is a developer himself as well, so he can control our code as well. And not many companies do that, but if you have a chance and you have the negotiation power, you should require that from the company you work with or from the freelancer. They shouldn't have any problem with that if they're professional enough. And that will just make the project a lot more easier to complete than if you wouldn't do that. So a little bit of advice.
I would just add to that I think these days it's a really normal thing that the trustful company will share the source code with you with any circumstances during the whole development period. It's just natural. So you should have to have the access to GitHub or GitLab. It's just normal these days, I would say.
Great, thanks. Now, this is more of a design question. I have worked with a lot of design teams in Asia, and so from my experience, I know that you have to give very, very specific instructions and can't really give a lot of creative freedom. But if I am looking for someone's creative expertise as a non-designer, is that something that I can get from, maybe a European-based firm?
I would say it depends on the market or where is your target group located. If you are working on a startup for US market, you should hire designers in USA or Europe, because there is a huge difference if you ask for design services in India or Asia. We have been working with many designers in Asia or India because of our clients. We work with some really well-known agencies here, and sometimes we just get the design and work on the development. But if you just check a large companies like, let's say, McDonald's, they always have different visuals for Asian or Indian market, and the websites for USA or Europe are almost the same, not just design wise, but they also have using really similar copy, and it can make a huge difference because some of the metaphors they are using just mean something else in Asia or it's just like that. You can check it online, just visit their websites. And we see a huge difference in the visuals. It's not a problem. Like, the design is good, but it's not for the same market. They just like different things. And I'm not talking about guys from India that have been working for US market or European market. They know what to produce. But if they don't have any experience with this market, I would just not do it.
Thank you. So what do you think are the differences between working with a design or development company versus a freelancer?
Maybe I would start. One thing is that for freelancers, freelancing is a supplemental income, so you can fall to the bottom of their priority list. That's one thing. Other things, those with the daytime jobs, they can be hard to reach because they work just in the evening, especially if you are working with someone from Australia, for example, or like the time zone is not ideal. It can be a really big problem. Other thing is that freelancers have lack of project management skills, like especially designers and developers. They are just not organized, and not everyone. Of course, you can find really good designers, well organized, but their rates are almost the same as agencies. So if you want to save some money, it's hard to find someone like this. And agencies is also a small agency could be a problem, but I would say like the middle-sized agency, they have all the people to stay organized, to work according to the plan, and they have different designers, from user experience designers to branding specialists. So other thing is that if you are looking for a specific job, okay, it's possible to use freelancer, but if you need something more, for example, mobile app, there is a user experience designer, user interface designer, there is someone who is working on the front end, and it's really good to understand the programming language, because you will end up with the design that can't be implemented, or it will cost you 3 times more to implement that design. So for more complex projects, it's much better to use at least small agency with few specialists.
Yeah, I would say I've had good experience with both. On the one hand, with freelancers, of course, you can run into freelancers who aren't very good. You waste a lot of time. That's a drag. I have had fantastic experiences with freelancers. I can get fairly technical, and I like talking to the person who's doing the implementation sometimes, because then we can really, we can have a very tight feedback loop. We can bounce ideas off each other, and we can make a lot of progress really quickly. And I really enjoy that. On the other hand, I've been working with Platform on a project. One thing I love is Philip is in our calls, and sometimes we're talking about some pretty technical issue, and then we'll say, well, the UI doesn't work for what we're talking about. Philip will jump in. I got it. I understand it. I'll be back with a new tweak on this design tomorrow, or he'll be back very quickly. And if I'm just working with a freelancer, we may not know where to go. I mean, how do we solve this little UI problem? We can come up with some crappy solution, but Philip's right there. He solves that. Another thing, we're coming close to launch. We need to do app analytics. So I've decided we're going to use Mixpanel. You guys had I think there was a meetup on Mixpanel recently. Well, these guys have worked with various mobile analytics packages. They have a good sense of how to integrate, what kinds of information you can get out of that. My freelance developer is not going to know that stuff. So it's nice. It enables us to continue to push the project forward if we have somebody who can cover off on all the main issues that you come across in developing a mobile app. That's great. On the other hand, sometimes if I've got a great a developer, freelancer, and I'm working with someone in Thailand right now, we just have a great working relationship, and we can really get a lot done really quickly, and it's really, really satisfying. That's hit or miss. It's really nice having an agency that can step in, whenever there's gaps, so that the whole project doesn't slow down.
I would just mention that if we are talking about design and development, there are not many developers who can really design, and vice versa. So it depends on your needs. If you are looking for a freelance developer, it's fine. But if you want to cover all your needs, it's really hard to find someone who can do programming on like really senior level and in the same time do design.
And usually, like Mike is really talented. He knows something about design. He's know pretty much about development, so he can easily manage the team. But what about the situation when you are just in the kind of idea maker or business maker who finds new opportunities in creating startups, creating business like corporations and so on, but haven't got any information about development and maybe design? So what at that point? That's the question which I would like to ask maybe myself. If it's really necessary to, like, for example, to spend time to manage external like freelancers somewhere abroad, like each individually, with no like know-how of the task that they are doing. So how can I challenge them to do better job, to know if they are doing well? Because as a like just manager or idea maker, I can just see if they're like meet maybe the standards of my expectations, if they meet the project plan, the like sprints, for example, which we have agreed on before the start of the cooperation. But I cannot really like say if the source file is okay or not, if they can help me like building the application in the future. Because in the future it can easily happen that after maybe half a year, when I get back in touch with the developer, he can tell me that he's already working in some company and doesn't provide any freelance services. So I wouldn't say that it's a bad idea to use a freelancer like personally. It's very great. Sometimes maybe in the building phase of some products like MVP on some prototypes, it can get maybe a lot of cheaper, because this kind of prototype and MVP can like provide you new investment opportunities, like it's something which you can show to investors, something which is already working somehow, but afterwards you get some like funding. It's better just to rely on some reliable company who can like manage the whole process of development. You can just manage your own things and you can just rely on them, like the developing my product, and I can focus on developing my idea and coming the dream coming true, if you know what I mean.
Hey, I just want to add one thing, and we can take your question. And something just occurred to me about my last two startups, which is it's a pattern. Maybe it's only an N of 2, but it is a pattern. I find that I've used freelancers early to climb a big technical mountain. So in any startup, there's going to be some. Well, in my startups at least, there's some big technical question that we need to answer. Can we do this, or can we do this in a way that it's that actually works well? And in the case of the startup I'm working on now, it's a map-based photo sharing app. There's some sort of sophisticated mapping stuff we're doing, and so I found a guy who is in Thailand. I mentioned him. He's a GIS programmer, Geographic Information Systems programmer. He's very good. He's way cheaper than I can get in the United States, and we just needed to figure some stuff out. I wasn't sure if some of the stuff we wanted to do was possible. We got to the point where we sort of checked that box and said, okay, we can do that. And then I needed to sort of build a product. And so in both these last two startups, at that point, I'm more ready to work with an agency, with a firm. But the real hard technical problem that we had to solve, that we had to figure out, it was really good. I really benefited from working with a really talented engineer, just to sort of do a proof of concept, if you will, early on. I don't know if I don't know how many other circumstances there are like that, but I've certainly encountered that the last couple times. Yes, Emmy, I'm sorry. Well, I'll speak for myself and these guys and talk about how people have found them. There are various ways. If you haven't used Upwork.com for freelancers, I'm talking about. Upwork is a great source. I used to use Elance, but Elance was purchased by Upwork, and I found a good number of people from there. Also, though, you find other developers on other lists. So the list that we're on here in Silicon Valley is how I found out about Platform through Diana. And someone asked, I think, something about how do I get design and development done by an outside firm, and she mentioned Platform. It sounded great, and that's how I found them. I think agencies and freelancers are a little bit different markets. In terms of design, so there's some websites that have some really good, design examples, portfolios. There's Dribble. There's Behance.net. Those are a couple good ones. Maybe Lucas can.
Yeah, Dribble, Behance, and award-winning websites or awards. Like you can find really good examples. That's one thing. But a good company will have a lot of referrals. So, for example, we post our work everywhere on all social networks, but most of our clients find us through referrals. And there is a different, you can Google them, you can always use Google search, but if you are looking for some bigger agency or someone who can cover your software development requirements, you should probably rely on these testimonials. Like I'm talking about testimonials all the time, but it's really worth to check them.
Great. We're just going to ask a few more questions and then we'll open it up to the audience. So this is more a question for you, Philip, more of an operational question. What are some good tools for workflow organization?
All right. This is pretty straightforward, and I'm sure you're gonna know the answer. So, for example, we use Basecamp because of its simplicity for the communication with the client. Then we do regular calls, which is Skype Hangouts. And then for more complicated projects, we use Jira. So that's basically how we manage the whole thing. And obviously also Google stuff, Google Calendar for schedule meetings. Everyone is using that, so that's not a problem, just to get a client on that. So that's it.
Maybe design-wise, I will recommend to use InVision, where you can easily write feedback for a specific UI element, and you will save a lot of time, because just writing emails and talking about design, screens, it's really hard. Also, you can put comments on that. Maybe I would also recommend. You can talk about the software tools, right? Like
as Philip said before, the most basic tool for development, like project management internally, is Jira for big software development projects. Like the Basecamp is usually focused on the communication with the client about the project and the steps inside of the project, what the work has been done, what are the comments to the work that has been done, and so long. But Jira is the best project management tool for internally managing the whole process of development. But otherwise, you have to always stay focused on doing the very deep analysis of your project at the beginning, to divide the project into several sprints or steps. Or I don't know otherwise should I name it? So you know what you want to get, and the company really knows what should be delivered to you. This is the basic point. Otherwise, the management tool, we are in startup valley, like Silicon. Everybody's doing like startup, some kind of startup. So maybe in a half in a year or in a year there will be many more different like project management tool and so on, like we are talking about now. So it doesn't matter maybe about the name of the project management tool. It does mainly depends on what you want to get from the company and what the company should deliver to you according the agreed like points at the beginning of your whole cooperation.
Great, thank you. So what if I'm a a purely business side entrepreneur, idea person, not technical at all? Do I need a technical person on my side to effectively work with you guys? Do I need a project manager on my side?
I'm a how should I put? I have a negative point of view on this. I think that I think it's very hard to manage a remote project if you don't have technical chops. I'm not saying you have to be a coder, but you have to be pretty darn detailed about what you want. And that requires understanding. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I started working on another app before this, I actually didn't know what an app was. I mean, I didn't know how an app is structured and what are the different parts of an app. And I thought I knew, but I didn't know. And a lot of people who say, oh, I'm not technical, but I have an idea, actually don't know really what makes a good app. And you need to know that, especially if you're hiring people thousands of miles away. Even if their cost, whatever, a small amount of money, you're wasting their time, you're wasting your time. I've done that in the past. You need to really have a very good handle on what you want, and that requires some level of technical understanding. And that requires, for instance, I'm an iOS. I work a lot on iOS. You need to know what a tab bar is. You need to know what a navigation controller is. You need to understand, basic things about how apps work. You need to understand when you're asking for data from another source. You need to understand how long that's going to take, and there's all sorts of things like that. If you don't, you need to do your homework and learn it. There's not a lot of. It's hard. It's really hard if you have an idea but you don't understand what kind of how apps work.
Yeah, I totally can agree with Mike, but I wanted to add just some few more thoughts maybe about it, and now I forgot it. No, it's you have to be really responsible for yourself for the time you are investing in your creating any idea, and I think that it would be really unresponsible to like step into developing some applications and softwares and kind of platforms online and etc. When you wouldn't have any information about what are you doing and what platform are you working with. So it's really responsible to do your research before, and it's really beneficial for the company to speak with the client who really kind of knows what he wants to get. But I can maybe just compare it to another kind of business, like in a normal, regular life. For example, when you want to be a car dealer, right? You really need to know how the car is built. You really have to know how the machines which are building the car are built, and you just rely on a like specific brand from which you get like good references. You know that they are building their product well, but you can send it well, and you can just customize it, yeah, according to your needs. So these are the different point of view maybe which you can implement when starting a business. But I totally agree with Mike that you have to do your homework, because the company doesn't matter if it's the company like next door to your office or somewhere abroad. They doesn't owe your business. They are just your partner who are you paying for. So they can be like additional values according to the skills which they gained through all the years in the different projects which they already have made. But it's your project, so doesn't forget about it.
I would like to add that we have been working with idea stage startups, also seed round startups, and brands like Spotify or HP. And what I really didn't like was the idea stage type of client, because if it's a great idea, you love it, but you can't solve the business model, business concept. If the business concept is not working, great design, really great user experience, and a clean code will not help, like, at all. So I would focus more on the business model, and there are a lot of ways how to prove your concept. But if you find a good agency, they can solve all your user experience questions, and I think this is not important if the business model is not good.
Yeah, now I'll just add some things to this topic. So, if you find the right partner, and I know this sounds like a cliche, how are you gonna find the right guys? But if you really find them, they will help you to, they will help you with your idea. For example, what we do is that we are always trying to add this added value because we have a really experienced team. We have product strategists. So if we see that the client's idea is kind of not that good and we don't trust it, we at least speak our mind. We will tell them how they can improve their product. So there's not many people who are skillful and they know apps, or they are not in the startup world. They don't know anything about, for example, the product funnel, right? The sales funnel. So we are here to help them with that. Some people forget, okay, there should be a reason why the user opens the app for the second time. Some people forget this. Or some people don't tell the user how to use the app. You get a lot of clients like that, especially when we were working on 10 apps a month for idea stage startups. That was a big issue, and I know agencies or freelancers that will do just what you tell them. But if you really need that help, if you don't have these technical skills and you haven't read many books and you don't get 5 years experience, then you really need someone who can help you with that. And that's what, for example, we try to offer and present as our unique selling point as well.
Great, thank you. Did you want to add to that?
Sorry, I will just shortly add to that. This is actually a good sign how to find a good company. The company that's try to understand what you are trying to build, and that company tries to help you, try to improve your business idea, not just follow the instructions, because they have to understand that you repose the future of your projects to their hands. So if you find an agency that's try to advance your course, to improve your product, even to give you some business advice, even if you're ordering just a design or just software development, definitely go for them. That's definitely a sign how to identify a good